Hi everyone, welcome back to Liz Longest Designs YouTube. Today we're doing a 12 by 12 page with a cut file title, that says Plant Lady. We'll get to that in a bit, but first we're going to start on the background. I really love this horizontal stripe that has a wood grain pattern in it, and I thought it was perfect for the colors and the texture for pictures from my garden last year. I want to do a column design, so I want the middle 6 inches to be different. So I cut 4 inches off of either side of this paper, and it's hard to tell in the video, but the polka dots that looks like on the video are actually hearts, and they're facing the wrong direction, and they're totally sideways. So I can't just flip over the middle, which is what I originally planned when I pulled out this paper. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time trying to decide what paper I want to go in the middle for that middle 6 inches where my photos are going to sit on top of. Everything that I'm pulling out is from Paige Evans' Garden Shop collection, so everything coordinates. I'm just trying to find something that really pulls out the colors from my photos and is a nice accent and isn't overpowering and competing with that stripe. I really want this stripe to shine on the page. So I pull out a piece of scrap solid 12 by 12 for my stash, a color that I either don't think I'm going to use or that I have a ton of to build my page on top of so that it has a bit of sturdiness. So the horizontal stripe is a 4-inch piece and then a 6-inch piece of this tone-on-tone orange and then another 4-inch stripe to get the full 12 by 12 background. I wanted to add a little more interest, a little more texture, so I am off grabbing a Martha Stewart border punch that has been in my stash for forever. I used it for my wedding invitations way back when. So I'm going to punch 2 sets of this border for either side of the layout to give it a little more interest. So I line it up, I punch 1 whole row, and then I'm going to cut that off, leaving just a little bit of solid edge for me to glue that down. And I'm going to punch a whole second set. You just move it over, line it up with the background, punch, and keep repeating until you've made it all the way across the page. Trim that down, and then I'm going to quickly decide whether I want those to face in on top of the orange or to layer out over the stripe. And I really love seeing all those textures and colors beyond all those little punched areas in the little windows. Once I get those edges glued down, I'm going to start to play with the arrangement of where I want the photos, and I'm going to bring in the title that says Plant Lady. This cut file is available in my shop, as well as these leaf accents. They're available in 2 different sizes, so I'm pulling out the smaller size that I offer that I think I'm just going to tuck behind the border punch just to give it a little more texture, another layer, add a little bit more interest, and really pull in somewhere else for that white cardstock to be, because there's nothing else white on the page right now. So that really helps bring the title in and make it look like it has purpose. I knew I wanted the spaces behind the word plant to be in all different patterns, all different colors. So I'm going through more Garden Shop paper and deciding which paper I want to pull the patterns from. I don't want to cut into a full 12 by 12 if I don't have to, just for these 5 little letters. So I use this grid paper, and the Plant Lady title just barely, perfectly, almost fits each letter into one of those colored squares. So I'm going to decide which 5 colors I'm going to use. I don't want to use the orange and have it end up blending into the background of that tone on tone. Even though they're slightly different tones and they're different patterns, I want to choose colors that are going to pop off of the orange background. So I'm using my tape runner to back the cut file, so to speak. And you're going to see me do this a little bit differently than I have in the past when I back cut files. Normally I flip both pieces over, I trace it from the back, I cut it out, and then I glue it on to my cut file, which is really great if you just have a general shape or the pattern is all the same and you don't have to worry about exact placement. But for this, because these letters just barely, and I mean just barely, fit in these little squares, it was kismet. I am gluing down the cut file onto the paper so I can see exactly where those patterns hit and make sure everything lines up perfectly. And then since they're fairly basic shapes, then after I've glued those all on, then I'll cut off the excess around the letter. You also just saw that A, I actually ended up using 2 pieces. There was a line where the L in lady goes across the A, so I could use that as a border to piece in a second piece of that pattern and still make it all look solid. I was really, really happy with how this worked out. The T was actually the most finicky to get all lined up and get the whole letter backed on that small square. The very, very bottom edge of the T is actually a different color, but you really don't notice. Most of it is exactly where I wanted it to be. So I just also decide I'm going to back the photos in more of this white cardstock instead of bringing in more pattern. The white cardstock then is in 3 places instead of 2, and it really, really makes everything feel much more purposeful and much more cohesive. And this is the same white cardstock that I used to cut all of my cut files in my Etsy shop, and so I just had an extra scrap on hand that I used to get those all backed. So I got those backed, got those glued down, and now I'm starting to really make the decisions and get everything in place. I center the plant lady title, and then I'm going to get these leaves glued in. I do bend up the sides of this border punch again, and I press them right back down just enough to give it a little bit of dimension, to make it a little bit easier to get these leaves in underneath the edge, and I really like how it adds that extra dimension. I'm not sure how long it'll stay once it's in an album, but we'll see. So I'm just really, I don't want to say I'm haphazardly just throwing these leaves in there, but I really wanted it to feel more organic, kind of like a wildflower garden area than anything that was like super structured. So I just put 3 sets on each side, and I play with that little dotted leaf for a moment and decide it doesn't really flow with the rest of them for me. I pull out the thickers, and I'm going to start just arranging some pieces here and there, things that I like to pull out and start arranging them on the page. I really liked that grow piece, but I thought it might compete with the title, and I really wanted it to be obvious that the plant lady cut file was supposed to be the title and the focal point. So I just go through the cardstock sticker sheet and the thicker embellishment and start to arrange stickers in this orange area. I also here am going to go through all of the ephemera packs, and I just start to pull out the things that I like, sentiments that make sense with the rest of the page. I've pulled out a sticker that has a black background, and there's no other black on the file, so I'm also making sure I pull out at least one other item that has some black in it. I pull out this blue house ephemera because our house is blue, so it makes sense to me to go on a garden page because the garden is right next to the house. And I pull out a blue journaling spot as well from that pack. I go through the floral ephemera, but realistically the photos are kind of the floral element for this page. So I pull out a couple in case I decide I want to use them and kind of have them off to the side, but I think maybe only 1 or 2 end up really making it on the page. So I lay out the elements I have, and I definitely think I have enough big pieces, but I go through the last sticker book and pull out anything on the smaller side that I think I want to make sure I get included. And it's always good to go through all of the sticker books in your collection just to kind of remind yourself of what's there, what's available, Like I'm like, oh, I have all these little letters I can add to my title if I want. So I kind of take note of that and keep that in mind as well. So like I said, when I started, I really wanted to work on this column design. And so all of these pieces are going to end up getting layered in that orange space there through the middle. And as I'm arranging and playing around with these, I really start to end up with these little groupings that kind of are independent of each other and take up a lot of the space, but leave a lot of like quote white space around each kind of grouping and element. You can see I'm already filling up all that space, so some of those bigger elements are already getting vetoed off the page or off the island. So I balance the blue house on the left at the top, since I have the blue journaling square at the right on the bottom, so those kind of are opposite each other. That also puts the black element on the right at the top and at the left on the bottom. And that little just letterboard that says flowers are my happy place, it could not be more true, especially in my garden. I love spending the summer out there with all the butterflies and hummingbirds that we get here in Tennessee. So I start with the bigger elements and I start grouping all of those things together, filling in some of those spaces, layering up individual pieces. And I just start layering up and adding things in until I think it is as full as I want it to be. I ended up using only one of those beautiful stickers I pulled out. I didn't realize I had pulled two, so the other one isn't going to make the cut. And then I'm going to use these little letters in all the different colors to add the title to say officially a plant lady. I definitely used to have a black thumb. I've made a strong effort to be better about it, and last year my garden really thrived and I was super proud of it, which is probably what the journaling is going to say on this page. I haven't quite added it in yet. I'm just making sure as I pull those letters, I'm pulling a variety of colors so that two colors aren't sitting right next to each other. So that's why I was just double checking to make sure I had letters in the different colors of the papers that I was going to be able to alternate. I add in a couple of last little circles that have hearts on them and get the lady part of the cut file stuck down. I wanted to wait until the end to make sure I didn't want to tuck anything else underneath that part of the title, and I decided I really liked it on its own standing out, so I go ahead and get that stuck down, and with those last few heart circles, this page is done. Enjoy the close-up shots of the details of all the layers and textures in these papers. I love Paige Evans collections so much. They're some of my favorites. I'll go ahead and get that journaling added in soon and get this in my album. Thanks for coming to watch, guys. I hope you'll like and subscribe and come back next week for my next video. Thanks.